Sports will join us at around 5:30. Hall of Famer John McClain, who is with us on Tuesdays, but that was the NFL owners' meetings, and my goodness, a lot to discuss and digest and chew up and spit out. He joins us now from GallerySports.com in 610 Houston, but also the Hall of Famer himself. John, thank you very, very much. So your thoughts about, let's start with some of the rules changes. Was there one that passed you didn't think should? Was there one that was tabled or said no to that you wish would have passed?
The one that I just don't understand, because they used to do it, is having 3 quarterbacks active on game day. Now, you can do that now, but teams don't do it because the odds are you don't need 3 until you do, like the 49ers in the playoffs. And I don't understand why they tabled it till the May meetings. They started to try to make it more complicated than it should be. The fact is, it should be either a quarterback on the roster or a quarterback on the practice squad, and he's available to play if the first 2 get hurt. That's the way it used to be. I don't even know why they got rid of it, but that's one. The other one was starting drives on the 25 after punts, like they do on extra points. Other than that, the rules to me were just a bunch of hocus pocus.
John, Lamar Jackson has asked for a trade, and it's always about the money. Do you think a trade will happen, or do you think that eventually this deal gets done?
Well, it's kind of stupid to ask for a trade when anybody can sign you over the last 2 weeks. And the fact is, people don't want to pay guaranteed contracts. Jim Haslam, the owner of the Browns, who defended his decision to give Deshaun Watson $30 million guaranteed, was a big topic of conversation here. And the others don't want to do it because once another one does it, they can't say that Watson was an outlier. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert are coming up. Jalen Hurts is coming up. If one team gives another guaranteed contract to a quarterback, then they're all going to have to do it for their stars. Lamar Jackson is a huge topic of conversation all the time. His supporters, of which there are many, they tend to leave out the fact he's been hurt a lot for the last 2 years. Has won 1 playoff game in his career and was an MVP 4 years ago. Now, he's got a great record in regular season, but like the Texans want to get their own guy. They can get a quarterback here, and if we'll probably have him at least 3 years before they have to give him big money, maybe 4, instead of giving Lamar Jackson $250 million or whatever he wants, which hamstrings what you can do with other players. So I'm just guessing, unless he comes off of his demand of getting a fully guaranteed contract, he's going to be right there playing on the franchise tag, $32 million. And people say, well, he could sit out. No, he can't, because if he sits out, his contract tolls. He's still going to make $32 million. Now, others have sat out and worked trade. Most recently, Trent Williams, a great offensive tackle who was sat out with Washington and was traded to the 49ers for a second-round pick. But it's very, very unusual. So I believe he'll still be playing with the Ravens. And they've been very, very careful to not say or do anything that would offend him.
John, if there was even the slightest chance of him moving elsewhere, where would you start looking first?
I don't even think about that, Craig, because I don't know if an owner is going to give that guaranteed contract. Listen to these guys talk here about it, like Jim Irsay. Would you give up the 4th pick in the first round as well as your top pick next year and give $30 million like Watson fully guaranteed for Jackson? I just don't think that's the case. Arthur Blank was asked about it, the owner of the Falcons, and he mentioned, he said, you give a guaranteed contract to a player that's had injury issues, and of course, Lamar Jackson was offended by that, but he's being honest. That's the fact. It's not like he's been totally durable.
John, Daniel Snyder, no matter what he's done to the franchise in the time he's owned it, 2 $6 billion bids, and I know Tillman Fertitta wasn't far behind. He's going to come away with a ton of money. When do you think this will be a done deal? Does it take now a few more weeks? Is it when the next owners' meetings? When will this happen?
The next league meeting is in Minneapolis in late May, and that's 2 months. That gives them time. Now, the problem is this Canadian billionaire, Steve Apostolopoulos, he's popped in late, and he bid $6 billion. The group led by Josh Harris, the owner of the Sixers and the Devils, who also has a partner named Mitchell Rails and then Magic Johnson, they bid $6 billion. Tillman Fertitta, the Rockets owner, bid $5.5 billion. We don't know if he's going to go up. Snyder, of course, is eating this up because he's open. One of them will go up another $500 million. It's just amazing. I hate to see an owner who has been so bad for a franchise, so bad for the league, an embarrassment. You know, they want to last that boil, and they don't want to be forced to do it with 3/4 majority needed to oust him. So they're letting the process move slowly. But I hate to see Snyder benefit, walk away from more investigations. But it's going to be sold. His team president said, I don't know why that won't happen. A lot of people still think Snyder won't do it. I think he will do it.
How long do you think it will take?
Once they determine that all the bids are in and they're not going to bid anymore, they're going to have to, the owner will have to be approved. Finance committee, I'm guessing, has vetted these guys. It's like Bob McNair before he founded the Texans. He wanted a team. He had been vetted by the finance committee of owners. And they actually tried to get him to buy a couple of franchises, and he said no. And then when the Houston became available, he went after him and got him. So I'll be surprised if it's done in 2 months, but I think we'll definitely be further down that road. And at some point in the off season, Snyder's going to be gone. He can sail away on his yacht with the IMAX screen on it.
John, there's no question the Astros have been as successful as anybody in the last several years in baseball, and coming off the World Championship. What are expectations this year?
Nobody has repeated since the Yankees in 2000 when they won their third in a row. And there's a reason for that. One of them, I had some Hall of Famers talk to me when I went to West Palm Beach to Reggie Jackson's charity. And one of them, Mike Schmidt, I asked him, the great Phillies third baseman, he said, it's hard to repeat because you get the best everybody's got. But that's the way it is in all sports. But now there's so much you get from analytics. Every year you know more and more about players. And so a team that wins it like the Astros, who beat his Phillies, teams are going to know more about it. They're not going to know more about Christian Javier. They're going to know about Robert Valdez, Hunter Brown. They've got really good starting pitchers. Lance McCullers is not ready because of elbow issue. He's throwing on a flat surface. And the fact is, it's not what you do in April and May. And it's last year, I think the Angels started 2010. Everybody, oh, man, Trout and Ohtani and Anthony Rendon are going to the World Series, and then they were awful. And that, as long as you've got pitching, the Astros are 5 deep. They have 2 young guys who have pitched really well and made the roster, and they have the best bullpen in baseball back intact. And they're with Jose Altuve out, the lineup they're going to use, Jeremy Pena leading off, Alex Bregman second, Yordan Alvarez third, their new addition, Jose Abreu from the White Sox first base fourth, and Kyle Tucker fifth. That is a pretty awesome first 5 hitters, and not many teams can beat it. And so a guy like Tucker and Abreu, they ought to get a lot of RBIs. And in most cases, injuries tell the tale. But remember last year, the Dodgers dominated in regular season. The Braves dominated in regular season. Astros dominated in regular season. And the other 2 got upset by inferior teams. So even if you win 100 games, you still got to do it in the playoffs. But people are fired up, as you guys can imagine. And I can't wait to get back home tomorrow to see them play that first game and lift their second banner.
John, is there a team, the AL West, that should scare them at all? I'm sorry.
My good buddy Shireen Williams, who lives in Arlington, she tells me that Ranger fans think they're going to win it. And she grew up Beaumont Astros fan. She said, well, you might win second place. That's what the race is for. The truth is, the Angels still don't have the pitching. And it's a shame other than Ohtani. Without Ohtani and Trout, and even Anthony Rendon signed a $236 million contract after he led the Nationals to the World Series victory over the Astros in 2019. He's been hurt ever since he got there. They are so much fun to watch at the plate. Jacob deGrom, how many starts do they have to give for the deal to be worth it? I'd say 25 to 30, which he hadn't done in a long time. But Rangers got some good young players. The only thing we know about that division, Paul, is the A's will finish last.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
And the Astros first. It's a battle for second place.
John, how did the city of Houston handling seeing the Cougs bow out in the NCAA tournament?
Trying to put on a stiff upper lip, but they're devastated, Craig. I mean, you can imagine Houston and Alabama were the best teams in college basketball. UT had that great run. Everybody was fired up. Before I came out to the desert for the league meetings, I was looking at how expensive tickets were, even on the resale market in the upper reaches of NRG Stadium, how expensive they were. And I'm told now you can get one for $50. And I feel terrible for the people putting it on. I'm guessing the TV ratings will be maybe the lowest ever. UConn seems to have the best team. San Diego State, FAU, Florida Atlantic's won like 35 games. And then Miami, a football school, they might be great games, but UConn was the most dominant. And they won a championship before. I think they won a championship in Houston in 16. So it may be competitive, but you don't talk about no blue bloods, no Texas schools, 2 from Florida, 1 from Connecticut, and 1 from San Diego State. And really the only people care about those schools are the people in their areas.
All right. I thought I saw under your timeline that Earl Campbell's birthday is today. The Tyler Rose. And I know that we've discussed him with you, and we've had Earl on many times in the past. Just your recollections again of when he arrived on the scene and what he meant to that franchise.
I'm going to tell you all a story. When I started working at the Waco Tribune Herald while I was at Baylor for Dave Campbell and Hollis Biddle, his right-hand man who actually hired me because Dave was so tied up all the time with his columns in Texas Football Magazine. And Campbell, after I'd been there a few months, came to me and said, how would you like to write for the magazine? I said, what magazine? He said, Texas Football. I said, I'm not good enough to write for Texas Football. He said, well, I think you are. And it's my magazine. I said, okay. And I'm thinking, I got no business writing for Texas Football, which I'd read religiously since the first issue. And I was kind of intimidated by Dave anyway. He said, there's a linebacker who's moved to running back, and a bunch of coaches, college coaches in the Southwest Conference tell me they think he could be special. And here's his coach's his number. Give him a call and talk to him. I said, what's the name? He said, Corky Nelson. I said, that's a funny name for a running back. He's the coach. I said, what's the player's name? He said, Campbell. I said, oh, a relative of yours? That's why you want me to do it? He goes, no, just call him. Well, you couldn't Google anybody back then. So I found out it was Earl, and I wrote a story, and I turned it in, and it was in the magazine, and I had so many friends saw it before I did, telling me, wow, you get to write about this guy. He sounds like he could be special. And I read the story, and I'm thinking, I didn't write that story. That's not what I turned in. And I realized then Dave rewrote just about everybody because he was a great writer. So I didn't feel comfortable enough to tell people for like 10 years. I wanted them to think that's what I turned in. Really, I should have had at the bottom also contributing John McClain. And when he included that story in his 25th anniversary issue, and I was so proud, Baylor, of course, hired Corky Nelson. Grant Type hired him, thought they'd help him get Earl. And then Earl became a T-SIP and won the Heisman. And Bum Phillips made a trade to get the top pick in the draft to get him. and the rest was Houston history, Texas history, and NFL history. And Earl is in Austin, has great deals going on. He makes a lot of public appearances. His health's better, even though he still has to use a wheelchair and a walker. And but it's hard to believe. You know, Earl looks like he's about 77 because his white beard and everything. But I was watching highlights today because it's his birthday of his first game against the Rams, and then goring linebacker Isaiah Robertson.
Yeah.
And so it's always a special day in Houston when anything involves Earl Campbell.
No question. John, thank you very much. We appreciate your
Thank
time.
you, guys. Second Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us mostly Tuesdays, but joined us this week, the day after him. And